Good evening and many thanks for joining us here on Rwanda Television. We hope you had yourselves a very productive day. Now, top of our edition, these are our headlines. In a quest to address issues in Rwanda's transportation sector, including long queues, long waiting times that often lead to delays, on Tuesday, 40 new buses were added to the public transportation system in the city of Kigali. On Tuesday, 200 Sudanese students were welcomed in the University of Rwanda College of Medicine as they continue their courses in Rwanda, fleeing instabilities in their home country that destroyed properties, including schools. Glad to have your company tonight once again, coming to you from the city of Kigali. My name is Martina Abera. Rwanda and the Gambia recognize the significance of collaborating to exchange expertise on self-reliance programs for their respective developmental goals. Top of forum, this was reiterated on Tuesday as Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente received His Excellency Muhammad B.S. Jallow, Gambia, Vice President of the Gambia. We have more from Sam Kalisa.
Discussions between the two officials were centered around self-reliance programs and Rwanda's homegrown solutions, including the National Dialogue, Umushyikirano, Leaders Retreat, Umwiherero, performance contracts, Imihigo, and more, as explained by the Rwandan Education Minister, Gaspard Twagirayezu.
This was a courtesy visit by the team from the Gambia, led by the Vice President of the Gambia, who is also the Prime Minister, and his team. So we discussed mostly about government coordination and the role the Prime Minister's office has in that coordination. But we also discussed about the participatory approach that we have here in Rwanda. And the specific examples that we looked at were around Umushyikirano, the National Leaders Retreat, and our system of Mihigo that we have, where we plan on a national level and you sign performance contracts, but at the end we check what we have promised has done to the population. Those who did not achieve those results are held accountable. So this is a discussion they were very much interested in on how that's done here in Rwanda. And tomorrow we will also have another discussion on technology in education, and they are interested in how that's being done here, and hopefully they may be able to also take it back to their country. We also discussed how different countries in Africa through the South-to-South cooperation can learn from each other. And one of the examples that was cited was around the financial management system that we have here, FMS. An example was given that when Rwanda was developing that, we visited the Gambia, but now Rwanda came back and the project was implemented. Now teams go back and forth trying to see what they can improve from each country. So I think the big lesson was that also countries in Africa, we can learn from each other. So some of the lessons that we do not need to come from elsewhere, but as a country can also see what we do better and try to exchange those lessons.
The Gambia is a country in West Africa with a land area of 11,300 square kilometers and a population of over 1.8 million people. The country shares border with Senegal and runs along the Atlantic Ocean. Gambia's economy is built on agriculture, animal husbandry, fishing, and tourism.
Now, in a quest to address issues in Rwanda's transportation sector, including long queues as well as long waiting hours that often lead to delays, on Tuesday, 40 new buses were added to the public transportation system in the city of Kigali, and 60 more buses will arrive in the near future. While speaking to RBA, the Minister of State in charge of Treasury in the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, Richard Tusabe, indicated that the new buses will boost transport in Kigali.
The government thought on how to reduce the transport cost paid by passengers, because as the price of buses increases, so is the transport cost. There was an exemption of taxes then. There was a study conducted in the city of Kigali that demonstrated the gap of buses, and it concluded that there is a need of 305 buses. And with the necessities, we decided to bring 200 buses for the pilot phase, and the aim is to ease the transportation in the city.
The Minister of Infrastructure, Dr. Jimmy Gasore, noted that the new buses will start working immediately. This comes days after the government issued open to the public transportation market to the private investors.
It means that starting from now, no one will work in disorder. This announcement amends the previous one. People with vans are only to operate as taxis if willing to continue in the public transport sector, and you have to have the license. We did not tax them. People with vans only operated just to help us in enclosing the gap.
Meanwhile, as a way of dealing with scarcity of public buses in the city, the government ordered for 200 new buses from China. 100 of these are expected to reach the country before December, while the rest will arrive in January of 2024. Now, moving over to education matters, on Tuesday, 200 Sudanese students were welcomed in the University of Rwanda College of Medicine as they continue their courses in Rwanda after fleeing instabilities in their home country that destroyed properties, including schools. Prince Manzi with more.
Together with their parents and lecturers, the 200 students were welcomed to continue their courses in the University of Rwanda in the first year of the College of Medicine. They are happy for they are now able to continue their courses in Rwanda as they had no hope to continue studying.
Rwanda is such a beautiful country. I was very, very surprised, especially with the landscape, the mountains and the greenery, especially the greenery. Because in my head, I've expected something else with Africa, but it's such a beautiful country. I was really amazed. And secondly, the people. We had our elders. They said that the people were nice and everything, but even when I came, even in the airport, I was surprised by how nice they were, and they were very, very welcoming. I was really, really surprised by that, because people were very. They showed us the culture and everything. I was so happy.
Mamoun Homeida, the chairman of the Board of Trustees at the Sudanese University of Medical Science and Technology, states that for Rwanda to have received them at their hardest, they have preserved the good relations that they witnessed.
Well, I would like to thank first the government of Rwanda, and at top His Excellency the President and the Vice Chancellor of the University of Rwanda, and the Principal, and all those who have helped and welcomed our students in this difficult time. We selected Rwanda because it is peaceful, number one. Number two, it is very welcoming. It's African.
Dr. Charles Muhizi, the Deputy Principal of the College of Medicine at the University of Rwanda, Huye campus, states that these students are enrolled in the university but will continue in their usual programs. He adds that the university is ready to support where needed for the betterment of their studies. They will not take programs studied in Rwanda. They continue with their programs. They have their lecturers and everything and other needs, but whenever they will need us, we support them. The students are 200, and the University of Rwanda will support them in having studying facilities and laboratories.
The ombudspersons and mediator in Africa find that putting efforts in providing justice and resolving conflicts will be instrumental in bridging the people of this continent to the desired Africa by 2063. Prince Manzi with more on this report.
These were said in the 7th General Assembly of African Ombudsman and Mediators Association. The Office of the Ombudsman in Rwanda demonstrates that it started to solve disputes through mediation between individuals and public institutions. The African Ombudsman and members of the Mediators Association in Africa demonstrate that even though there are challenges, efforts are made in providing justice and achieving the set goals.
It appears that the African Ombudsman is blessed always to be in Kigali, because when we're in Kigali, things happen. And today we are going to be taken through the navigating ethical dilemmas in mediation and ombudsman roles. We know the job of an ombudsman is not easy. We know there are many challenges that we face day and night, but the eminent men and women present today have proved that it's doable.
The Rwandan ombudsperson, Madeleine Nirere, emphasizes that in Rwanda, this institution is now solving issues between residents and public institutions through mediation. The Office of the Ombudsman also mediates. This year, we used mediation for 50 cases. These mediations vary between individuals and institutions, between institutions, banks, and clients. There are also cases that were taken to courts but not solved, and an example is the mediation between the Rwanda Revenue Authority and an entrepreneur who had an industry that was lagged and supposed to pay taxes, and the mediation concluded that they reopen his business and he pays taxes and pay farmers as well. The minister in the office of the President of Rwanda, Judith Uwizeye, appreciated the ombudsmen and mediators on their commitment and law enforcement in preventing various crimes, including corruption.
Rwanda salutes your respective countries and institutions for putting in place appropriate legal frameworks and standing up against practices of injustice and corruption. Corruption and maladministration undermine effectiveness of service delivery, leads to poverty, and weaknesses the protection of vulnerable persons. Combating systematic corruption and injustice on our continent requires partnership and collaboration between countries, public agencies, private sector, and civil society, also the media.
In this General Assembly, there will be an election of the new committee replacing the current committee led by Rwanda.
Thank you, Prince Manzi, for that report. Researchers from the African Union Academia find that some countries have managed to increase agricultural productivity despite existing challenges in processing and value addition. This is being said as 1 year is left to end the 10-year commitment to end hunger by 2025. Sam Kalisa with more.
In various parts of the country, there are factories that process agricultural produce such as bananas and maize to be sold on the domestic and foreign markets. As you have seen, we currently receive 30 tons of bananas per day. We have been discussing with relevant authorities on how to sensitize farmers to increase production, because the more we expand, the more produce we'll need. We have the capacity to process 144 tons per day and 42,000 tons every year. And this means that farmers should strive to increase their produce because they have a ready market for their maize. And in the end, they can get well-processed maize flour, as well as exporting the produce to the neighboring countries. In November 2014, during the African Union Heads of State and Government Summit held in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea, a declaration was made to end hunger, achieve food security, improve nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture on the continent by 2025. Despite the journey still far from being over, the African Union Academia indicates that effort is needed in processing and adding value to agricultural produce.
The processing, the value addition component of the food system, that it's not absent, but it's still at a, let's say, suboptimal level, because when you look at across the continent, we are spending around $50 billion a year on food import, and much of it is processed food, which means that if Africa can increase the processing component of its food system, we will be able to address not only the issue of import processed food, but also the malnutrition and the employment and all the other.
Rwanda is among the leading countries with 8.07 out of 10 points on score based on indicators of progress. No African country has scored the average of 9.29 out of 10 points desired by the organization. Cooperation between African countries was highlighted as a key factor.
There are few countries that managed to make some progress. What lessons can we pick from those countries? The areas that were lagging behind. What are we going to do differently to make sure that these targets ceases to be targets, but they become milestones that are celebrated? How do we uplift smallholder farmers? And how do we apply science in finding solutions to some of the challenges that we are facing as a continent?
Despite African countries being at different levels in terms of the implementation of the measures adopted in the Malabo Declaration, countries have committed to putting at least 10% of their budgets in the agriculture sector to achieve a 6% rate of agriculture growth every year. Sam Kalisa, Rwanda Television News.
Thank you, Kalisa, for that report. Now, those who closely monitor the development and the use of technology on the African continent find that there should be a contribution of the governments on this continent, which they show that it would further develop the sector of technology in Africa. Adam Squizera has more on this.
Various university students demonstrate the role of technology in their daily studies. Their students have found that smart technology is one of the important factors in the country's development. I have got this creative imagination that allows me to discover various things related to technology in order to pledge my contribution in the country's economy. Elizabeth Moreno, former French Minister for Gender Equality, Diversity and Equal Opportunities, says that even though technology continues to improve, there's still a lot to do in making it accessible to all, and all this goes hand in hand with increasing efforts to fight lies that are easily spread through technology.
No one knows what to believe and who to believe. If a person has the ability to analyze the information, it is good. But what if a person is not able to do it? In a country like Rwanda, where there are many people who would lie about your history, what are you doing to help your people to know the truth and lies?
Et où est le mensonge? On the second day of Kigali Economic Forum, it was revealed that the future development of the African continent is mainly based on the modern technology. Minister Ingabire Paula finds that the inclusivity of artificial intelligence in the functioning of various sectors would play a significant role in the growth of the African economy.
Applications in healthcare, from diagnostics to telemedicine, AI applications in agriculture, from precision farming and crop monitoring, education where we are offering personalized learning solutions. And so for over the past 2 decades as a continent, but particularly for the East African region, we've emerged as the continent's fastest growing region. The surge in economic activities encouraged by a commitment to inclusivity and the belief in empowering the potential of technology.
In order to achieve the country's goal of becoming a technology hub in the region by 2050, the cabinet meeting that took place on 20th April this year approved the National Artificial Intelligence Policy. Adam Squizera, RwandaTV News.
And on that note, we wind up here. On behalf of the production team as well as the technical team, we would like to thank you for sticking with us on RTV News. My name is Martina Avera. Stay safe and have a great night.